How you doing there? There's a little bit of there's a little bit of drama going outside. Uh, uh, oof. Yeah, my niece, I think she's having a little trouble. Uncle Panim. Well, that's not going to stop us, and we're going to get started here at Babylon Talmud, and we're going to learn Daf Yud Beis of Masechta Avodah Zarah, and on Daf Yud Beis. Oh, Givaldic. Yeah, so there's a lot of Daf Yud Beis. There's a lot of like Facebook Meta kind of stuff in different kind of ways. So, for example, as we know, um, you can't do business with a place that they have some kind of pagan festival. What about cities that are outside of this place, or other Facebook Meta things related to serving Avodah Zarah itself? Can you bend down to pick up epis in front of a getchke? Right? It might look like you're bowing down. So there's a lot of kind of like Facebook Meta kind of things that happen here today on Daf 12 of Masechta Avodah Zarah. Without further ado, here we go. Daf Yud Aleph Mud Beis, about 4 or 5 lines from the bottom at the Mishnah. A city, so a city, as I mentioned, a city that there's one of these pagan festivals in the city. So the shaila is chutzala mutter. So we're saying that outside of the city, right? So the shaila is, what about outside the city? So any place outside of the city is fine, right? The restrictions that we've talked about for doing business with a place that there's a yom tif for avodah zarah, it's specifically the place itself. But outside of the place, is mamish a whole matzav outside. Oh, the kosher section. What are they looking for? Produce section. What are they buying? There's a mamish matzav out there. Sheesh. Chutzala. So we're talking about outside, right? So outside, crime, mamish, everything. Skivalded, but it's a lot. Chutzala mutter. So the city is where all these restrictions apply, but outside of the city, so it's take okay. And also fakir, if outside of the city, if outside of the city there's some kind of yom tif, so inside of the city is fine. It's an under izach. It's very cool talking about inside and outside when mamish, like right outside my door there's like a whole matzav, and inside here we're learning Teres Hashem Tamimu. Okay. So this is talking interesting shaila now. Another kind of Facebook Meta kind of thing. Can you visit a place where there's a Yom Tiv for Avodah Zarah, right? Right. So let's say in Yenemsveld, they're celebrating a certain Getchke. So the shaila is, can I go there? Obviously not to do Avodah Zarah, but I don't know, maybe there's somebody I need to talk to. So can I go to this place? And so the Mishnah says, look, so here's the answer. The answer is, if there's only kind of like one road going to this town, and there's one road in, there's one road out, right? This road doesn't go anywhere else. You can't pass through this town to go to some third place. If this road is like, basically the point is, if anybody sees you going on this road, they see, he's going to this town and there's a festival today. It doesn't look good, right? It doesn't look good that you're going on that day to the town. But if it could be that this road branches off in different ways, and just because you're on this road doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to that town. Or maybe there's, the road continues past the town. So even if you're going through the town, you can continue on to another location. So in that case, it would be okay. So I think what we're saying is that So the shayla is, can I go to this town if I need to speak to somebody else? So it sounds like as long as, it sounds like being in the town itself isn't necessarily a problem, so long as you're not participating in the Yom Tov, right? You're just going to speak to somebody, whatever. That in and of itself sounds like it would be okay. The shayla you have to worry about is getting there. And that when you're going there, you just want to make sure that anybody who sees you going there is able to think that, oh, maybe he's going somewhere else. Okay. So again, if the way to get to that place is only to that place, also. But if it could be that while you're traveling on the road that you're traveling on, you could end up in a location that is not the location of the Yom Tif, then it's okay. So now we're going to see a three-way machlokes. Regarding exactly how the outside of the town works. It's a little subtle, but hopefully not too subtle. Tell me more about the outside of the town, says the Gemara. Omar, Reb Shimon ben Lakish, Mishum Reb Chanina says, Rish Lakish, and then Reb Chanina, Kegoin, Atluza shel Aza. For example, the meat market of Gaza. The meat market of Gaza, that apparently right outside of Gaza, there was some kind of meat market, but like mamish adjacent, like mamish right outside. So if in Gaza, they're having some kind of a Yom Tif, so we're saying that the meat market, which was right outside, would be considered outside of it. Vikid those who say, Ba'amine, Reb Shimon ben Lakish, may Reb Chanina, that Rish Lakish asks Reb Chanina, Atluza shel Azamau, what is the deal? What was the deal, or dilio, with the meat market of Gaza? Amalei, Reb Chanina responds, Le alachta litzur miamecha, well, haven't you ever been to Tzur? Tzur was a place where they coexisted, the Yidden and the Ovdei Kechavim coexisted. So you'd have a Yidden right next to him is an Oved Kechavim. V'ra'isa Yisrael v'Oved Kechavim sheshafsu shtei kederis al gabe kira achas. That in Tzur, so it was a place, it was a mixed city, Yidden Ovdei Kechavim, and what you would have is, I guess there would be, I don't know, public stoves, I don't know, but there would be like stoves, okay, and you would have Yidden and Ovdei Kechavim sharing a stove. Right? I guess a Yid comes with his pot, and an Oved Kechavim comes with his pot. They take it to the stove. The Yid puts down his pot on the stove. The Oved Kechavim puts down his pot next to the Yid's pot on the stove. And kacha they would cook it. So the point being, honestly, it's a three machlokas of what exactly the point being. But let's just say that the sort of general concept here is that, well, you have the Yid, the pot of the Yid, right next to the pot of the Oved Kechavim, and still we say that they're separate. So here also you have Gaza, and you have the meat market right outside of Gaza, but they're still considered separate. Sheshavsu shtei al gabe kira achaz v'leichoshu loem chachomim, and the chachomim were not concerned. And now the shaila is, what does it mean that the rabbis were not concerned, right? So what exactly is the analogy over here, right? When we're saying the analogy between Gaza and the market outside of it to these two pots that are next to each other, what exactly is the connection that we're trying to make over here? Omer Abaye says, Abaye Mishum Bisar Nevelo. So it says Abaye, well, we're talking about an Issur D'Oraisa, a metaphor for an Issur D'Oraisa Nevelo. Okay? That when it comes to the pots, right, it says Lo Chashu Chachamim. I'm using that as a tie-in to Gaza and the meat market. So it says Abaye, well, here's the thing. You have one stove, you have the pot of a Yid right next to the pot of an Oved Kechavim on the same stove, and Lo Chashu Chacham, the Chacham are concerned. What are they not concerned about? They're not concerned that maybe, as the Gemara is about to say, the Yid's going to turn around for a second, and while he turns around, the Oved Kechavim is going to chop a piece of flesh, a piece of meat from his pot, right, from his own pot, the Oved Kochavim's pot, Tarfus, Nevela, and he's going to take Nevela, which is Mamish and Issa D'Oraisa, and he's going to put it into the pot of the Yid. And we're saying we're not concerned about Mamish and Issa D'Oraisa. So here also, by Gaza in the meat market outside, we're not concerned about an Issa D'Oraisa. What would the Issa D'Oraisa be? That we're not concerned that, right, because what's the Shaila? The Shaila is in Gaza, if they have some kind of a Yom Tiv for the Avodah Zarah, the Shaila is, can you do business with the people outside in the meat market? Can I, for example, come with a sheep and sell a sheep to the person in the meat market? Are we concerned that he's mamish going to take that sheep and maybe he's one of the Gazans in Azati? Maybe he Pashat, he's gonna or he subscribes to what they subscribe to, and he's gonna mamish take that animal and end up using it for Avodah Zarah, which is obviously an Issa D'Oraisa. So it says Abaye, well, just like we're not concerned about the nevela by the two pots that are next to each other, which is an Issa D'Oraisa, we're also not concerned that if you sell your sheep to this guy in the meat market, he's gonna go and offer it for some kind of a getchke, which is of course also an Issa D'Oraisa. So again, Omer Abaye says Abaye Mishum Bisar Nevela, that they aren't concerned about nevela, which is Nisa D'Oraisa Lo Yamrina, and we don't say Dom Mahader Ape Yisrael Lachori, that maybe the Yid is going to turn around for a second, Ushdi Oivek Kochavim Nevela B'Kedera, and the Oivek Kochavim is going to quickly throw a piece of nevela into his pot, even though that would be Nisa D'Oraisa. We're not concerned about it. V'Dekavoso Alchinami. And similarly here also by Gaza in the meat market, Lo Chashulim Chachomim, the Chachomim were not concerned, Mishum Dmei Avodas Kochavim, that maybe he's gonna pay you for the sheep and then take the sheep and offer it for his getchker. Okay, fine. Rave Omar. It says Rava says no. The analogy between the stoves, between the stove and the pots on the one hand, and the meat market in Gaza and Avodah Zarah, the concern is not for an Issa D'Oraisa, right? The Issa is not nevela, which is D'Oraisa, and mamish being Ovei Kochavim, which is D'Oraisa. No, we're talking about derabanan concerns here. There is a concept called bishul akum. Also, a concept that a sugya that is going to be discussed in this Masechta Avodah Zarah, Bishul Akum. That if an Oved Kochavim cooks food, and there's different halachas about it and details which we'll get to when we get to that sugya, but the concept is that if an Oved Kochavim cooks food, a Yid doesn't eat it. Now that's an Isser D'Midrabanan. It's not an Isser D'Oraisa, it's an Isser Midrabanan. Rava says that is the concern that we are concerned about. Meaning we're saying it's okay for the Yid to plop down his pot next to the Oved Kochavim. We're not concerned that the Oved Kochavim is going to cook the food for the Yid, which is an Isser D'Rabanan. So now, and that's similar. What's the Isser D'Rabanan here by Avodah Zarah? This D'Rabanan is that Midrabanan, you're not allowed to do business with a Oved Kochavim on the day of his Yom Tiv, right? So specifically in Gaza, there is a Yom Tiv happening on that day. Now, Midrabanan, you're not allowed to do business with the Gazans. The shaila is, what about the people outside? So we say, right, is it also midrabanan to do business with them? And we say, no, we're not concerned that maybe this person is really an azati and it's his Yom Tiv, and you're violating the Issa D'Rabanan. No, just like by the Bishul Akum, we're not concerned that he's violating an Issa D'Rabanan of Bishul Akum. So here also we're not concerned that it'll be that by doing business with the people in the meat market, he's going to be violating the Issa D'Rabanan of doing business with somebody, with a pagan on his Yom Tiv. So Rav Omer says, Rav disagrees with Abaye. He says, it's not talking about Nevela, we're not talking about D'Oraisis here, we're talking about D'Rabbanan. What were the rabbis not concerned about? Mishum bishulei ovdei kochavim. They were not concerned about the Issa D'Rabbanan of Bishul Akum. that the Ovid Kechavim will cook the food of the Yid on the stove. The Kavasa Ochanami, and the analogy to our case of Avodah Zarah and the festival and Gaza and the meat market, the rabbis were not concerned that, well, maybe this guy is taka in Azati, taka, it's his festival today, the guy you're doing business with in the meat market, maybe he's taka from the actual city and he's celebrating this day. We're not, and it would be awesome if I wanted to do business with him. We are not concerned about that. Rabba Bar Ula Omar says, Rabba Bar Ula, that actually it's a bit further. Even the Issa D'Rabbanan, if it was mamish the day of the Yom Tif, says Rabba Bar Ula, it would be not allowed even in the meat market. If it was mamish the Yom Tif, we'd have to be concerned. If it was mamish in the meat market right outside of Gaza. However, here we're talking about a shtickle removed from that. We're talking about the 3 days before the Yom Tif, which is a little bit more removed, right? Meaning the shaila there is that maybe 3 days before, by then maybe he will have eaten the animal already, or whatever it is. It's already like further removed. We're talking about in the days leading up to it. So in that case, we said in the Mishnah that in the days leading up to the Yom Tif, so we wouldn't do business with the Gazans, but outside during that period would be okay. Rabbi Bar Ula Omer says, that when it comes to the pots, right, the pot of the Yid next to the pot of the Ovid Chom, we're not concerned that maybe a shtickle of the dish of the Ovid Chom is going to spritz into the pot of the Yid, because it's not common that there's going to be spritz, and even if there is spritz, it would be bottled anyways. So okay, so that is 1 second, yeah. Okay, over is a bottle beruba, exactly, be bottle. So back in the, I was looking at Rashi for a second, but back in the Gemara, so Rabbi Bar Ula Omer says, Rabbi Ula lechoshu lehem chacham mishum tzinor, that by the pots and the stove, the rabbis were not concerned that maybe there's going to be a shtickle spritz from the pot of the Vikochovim into the pot of the Yid. We're not concerned. It's uncommon, and even if it was, it's bottle berov. So the Kabbalah Achanami here also lechashu loim chachamim mishum lifnei edom, right? It's saying that outside of right in the Gazan meat market, it would be okay in the days leading up to the Yom Tiv, because in that case, it's already, the days leading up to it. It's not the actual day of the Yom Tiv, and it's not in Gaza, it's outside of Gaza. Although Rashi points out that on the day of the Yom Tiv itself, it would be okay to do business not in the Gaza meat market, but further away. That would be okay. Okay, fine. So now, we're moving on to the next concept in the Mishnah of, can you go to a city that has a Yom Tif of Avodah Zarah? Can you go there, obviously not to participate in the Yom Tif, but let's say you have to discuss something with somebody in the city. Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, so a city in which there is a Yom Tif of Avodah Zarah, osur nikanes l'socha, you can't go into it. And not, you can't even pass through it to go to another place. Forget about it. That's the opinion of Rav Meir. Chacham was the Chacham say, Kozman shaderech miyuchedes le'samakim. The Chacham say it depends. Look, if the road only goes to that place, osur. Ina derech miyuchedes le'samakim muter. But if you could potentially, be going to another place, well, then it would be okay. It sounds like it would even be okay to go to that city to talk to your friends, so long as people who see you going there realize that there's a possibility that you could be going somewhere else. Now, says the Gemara something interesting. Yoshev like koitz b'fnei avodas kechom. If a person gets like a thorn in his foot, and it happens to be right in front of a getchke, Lo yishchav yitlena, don't bend down to take out the thorn. because it can look like you're bowing down to the getchke. But if it's not visible, it's mutter. We're going to explain in a few minutes what that means if it's not visible. What's not visible? What if a person dropped his coins in front of the getchke? He shouldn't bend down to chappen because it'll look like he's bowing down to a getchke. If it's not visible, it's permitted. A stream that flows in front of a getchke. Don't bow down and drink because it'll look like you're bowing down to the getchke when you bow down to drink. If it's not visible, it's permitted. Right? Sometimes you have these like getchke looking things in like a pond or something, and there's water that goes like flowing from his mouth. Don't put your mouth in the mouth of this. How do I even explain it? One of those like some pond with some getchke in it with some water coming out of its mouth. So don't kiss the getchke to drink the water. It looks like you're kissing a getchke. Okay, similarly, don't put your mouth on some kind of like a random pipe because it could be dangerous. Some kind of pipe that's just sticking out of the ground. Don't put your mouth on that. You can get sick. All right. Now, my nearer. What does it mean that if it's not visible, it's permitted? What does that mean? If it means that no one can see you. So, if there's a getchke and you drop your money, don't bow down, don't bend over to pick it up because it looks like you might be bowing down to the getchke. Maybe what it's saying is, but if nobody sees you, then it's okay. But that can't be. That whenever the Chachamim say that something is osir because it might look like something that's osir, even though what you're doing isn't to bend down to pick up money, there's nothing wrong with that. But because it might look like you're bowing down to the getchke, even if nobody sees you, you're in a closed room, whatever, nobody sees you, it's still osir. The Chacham say, don't do it because somebody might see. It doesn't matter that nobody can see. Rather, if it doesn't look like he's bowing down to the avodas kochavim, it's mutter. Meaning, if he turns in a different direction, if he turns his back to the avodas kochavim and then bends down to pick up the money, for example, that would be okay. We need all of these examples, right? The thorn in the foot, the money that falls, etc. Ditana koitz. If we only had the case of the thorn, so we say don't bend down to take out the thorn. Well, can't you just maybe hop a little bit further? Just get away from being right in front of the getchke and take it out there. But if your coins fall, you have to pick up the coins wherever they are. If they're in front of the getchke, they're in front of the getchke. Maybe that would be okay. And if we only have the case of money, that's also the mamona. We say, well, because it's just money. Avokot's the tzaira, but the thorn, which is painful, maybe you could just take it out now. So we say no. In both cases, Yitaka can't. The Tanahani Titan, if only on these two scenarios, Mishum Deleka Sarkonit. Because these two things, they're not life-threatening. But to drink, if your mom is deadly thirsty, that if you don't drink, you can die, right? If your mom need a drink. So maybe that would be okay. So we say maybe it wouldn't apply to tfichos. We say no, they're also do not bend down in front of the getchke to drink. Why do we now need the case of the getchke in the pond that the water comes out of the mouth? And we already said you can't even bend down in front of the getchke if your life depends on it. So certainly, right? So we already said that. We already talked about this. So what chiddush are we adding by don't basically kiss the getchke to drink the water? Well, because we wanted to make the other point was also don't put your mouth on this pipe, that random pipe that's sticking out of the ground to drink. Don't do that either because of the danger. What about like water fountains? What about public water fountains? I guess probably don't put your mouth on it. My sakona aluke. What's the sakona? I think it's some kind of a parasite. Oof. That sounds schwer. Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis thought, Lo yishte adam mayim lo min anharis, a person should not drink water from rivers, lo min agomim, or from swamps, lo befiv, not, he shouldn't drink it directly, with his mouth, velo biyado achas, nor with one hand, because in that case, you're just going to quickly try to get it in your mouth. I think with two hands, it could be okay, because you could kind of have a look at the water and see if there's any kind of parasitic worms in there. And if you drink the water, your blood is on your head. Because of a danger, my sakana saluko. What's the danger? These parasites. This supports of somebody who swallows some kind of water wormy parasite. You can heat up water for this individual on Shabbos because it's pikuach nefesh. There was a person who swallowed one of these wormy parasite thingies. Peter of Nehemiah allowed this fellow to heat up water on the holy Shabbos. And while you're waiting for the water to heat, drink vinegar. Somebody who swallows a hornet will not live. But nonetheless, even though he won't live, maybe just give him some very strong vinegar. After the chaypurta, maybe he'll stay alive a shtickle ad mafkid abese, just so he can kind of get his affairs in order. A person should not drink water at night. From Shas, if he does, Doma Brosho, his blood is on his head. Because of a danger. My sakana, what danger? Sakana is shavriri. The danger of shavriri. What's shavriri? I don't know. Shade amuna amaka sanverim. A demon that is connected to blindness. Oh, that sounds bad. Vitzochi maitakante. What if he's thirsty? What does he do? If there's somebody else there with him, this way, wake him up. Vilemale, and say to him, Tzachina Maya, I'm thirsty. And that apparently will be okay. Vilo, and if he doesn't have somebody to whisper that he's thirsty to, Nekarkish benachtma achatzba, he should if you have like a jar, like a mason jar, and there's like a lid on it, you should rattle it around a little bit, make some noise to kind of, I guess, scare away the demon. Venema, and say, you should say to himself, Planya bar Planya so and so, the son of so and so is. Amralach imach, your mother said to you, is dar mishavrire, be careful from shavrire, brire, rire, yiri, ri, bechase chivari. And then I guess you could enjoy your drink. Chevre, that was Daf Yud Beis of Masechta Avodah Zarah. We discussed a lot of kind of meta things about Facebook, meta things about places outside of the city. Can you walk to a city that is in the middle of a celebration? What about things related to Avodah Zarah itself? Can you pick up things in front of getchkes, things like that? So that was interesting stuff. Peace out.